The chain cut into Clara's wrist every time the wagon shifted. The desert wind didn't care. It whispered over her skin like it had all the time in the world, lifting grit into her mouth, her eyes. Her lips cracked when she tried to lick them, but she did it anyway, tasting blood and dust. The iron cuff was tight. Her fingers had gone numb sometime in the night, but her belly was still there, still heavy, still alive. She moved her hand again, just to feel something. Anything. The metal didn't give. "You ain't supposed to be here." The words came out like sandpaper, rough, almost a laugh. "Supposed to be home. With him." She tried to sit up. The sun wasn't high yet, but it was coming. She could feel it, that weight in the sky. It always came. Always. Her head dropped back against the wood. The wagon's wheel creaked. A raven called somewhere far off. She could almost see it, circling, waiting. They always waited. She remembered the last thing Micah said before they left her. "I never lied to you, Clara. You just heard what you wanted." He didn't smile when he said it. Just tightened the chain, tied it to the wheel, and stepped back like she was already dead. "You bastard." She let the words fall, no force behind them. There wasn't any left to give. She touched her belly with her free hand, slow, careful. The baby moved, just a little. Not enough. "Still here," she whispered. "We're still here." The wind kicked up, pulling at her hair. She didn't fight it. Let it go wild. No one would see her now. No one would care. She shut her eyes and tried to think of water. Cool, clear, pouring from the pump behind her father's house. Her father. He was gone now, dead before any of this. If he'd been alive, would they have tried it? Would Micah have dared? Her throat burned. She coughed, and it felt like her ribs would snap. She hadn't screamed. Not once. Not when they took her. Not when they tied her up. Not even when they rode away and left her in the dark. Screaming didn't change the desert. The chain rattled when she shifted again, pulling at her arm. She could see the skin now, raw, bleeding in places. The metal had eaten through it, bit by bit, like the sun was trying to help it along. A sound. She froze, eyes darting. Nothing. The baby moved again, a little stronger. She winced, hand pressing down. "Easy," she breathed. "Not now." The wagon groaned as the wind pushed harder. Something in the distance, a flicker, maybe a tree, maybe not. She blinked, but the light hurt. She'd begged him. Just once. Not for her, for the child. She remembered grabbing his coat, pulling him close. "Micah, please don't do this. Let me go. I won't say anything, I swear. Just let me go." He looked at her, really looked. And then he smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't touch the eyes. "You were never supposed to make it this far, Clara. This was about land. Nothing more. And that was it. No fight. No anger. Just done." The baby kicked harder. She groaned, curling as much as she could, the chain holding her back. Her body shook, cold and hot all at once. She breathed slow, counting. Like her mother taught her. The sun came higher. Heat wrapped around her, pressing, relentless. She didn't know how long she'd been there. Time didn't matter. Only the light. Only the heat. She'd sleep, then wake, then sleep again. The dreams came in waves. Her father's voice. Her mother's hands. A song someone sang in town, soft and low. Her tongue stuck to the roof of her mouth. She swallowed, nothing there. The chain moved. She heard it, or thought she did. The wagon shifted. She lifted her head. No one. Just the wind. Her hand fell again. Heavy. Useless. She thought of the day she wore her wedding dress. White lace, too fine for this place. Her mother warned her. "Men don't marry for love here, Clara. They marry for cattle, for land." But Micah had touched her hand so gently. He spoke sweet, soft words. Promised to keep her safe. She laughed now, a dry, bitter sound. A shadow moved. She blinked, trying to clear her eyes. A figure far off. She blinked again. Gone. She rested her head. Sleep pulled at her. A crack. Louder this time. Wood. Her eyes flew open. The wagon trembled. A gust of wind tore through, stronger than before. The wheels shuddered, groaned. The chain jerked. She sat up, heart pounding. Please! She whispered to no one. Please! Another groan. The wheel shifted, just an inch, but enough. Enough. She pulled, hard, the chain biting deeper. Blood ran, warm, sticky. The wagon leaned. The chain stretched. She pulled again, every muscle screaming. The cuff tore at her skin. Her breath came in gasps. A crack. Louder. The wood snapped. The chain sagged. She fell, hard, into the dust. Silence. Her hand shook as she touched the cuff, tugged. It didn't come off. But she was free of the wheel. Free. She lay there, chest heaving. The baby kicked again, harder now. She turned her head, looking at the sun. We're not done yet, she said. And she started to crawl. Her fingers dug into the dry earth, pulling her inch by inch away from the broken wagon. Each breath felt like glass, cutting through her chest, but she didn't stop. Couldn't. The sand clung to her skin, her torn dress, her blood. Behind her, the chain dragged like a dead weight, still fastened tight to her wrist. She didn't look back. The wagon was done. It didn't matter anymore. The sun sat high now, glaring down without mercy. Heat waves danced across the ground, making the distance blur, stretch, twist. She had no destination, just the need to move. Forward. Always forward. Her hand slipped, face hitting the dirt. She lay there, cheek pressed into the hot ground, eyes half closed. Somewhere, a buzzard called. It was close. Closer than before. She laughed, a hoarse sound that scraped her throat. Not yet, she told it, voice more breath than sound. Not yet, you ugly thing. Rolling to her side, she tried to sit up. Her arms shook, but she managed it, cradling her belly. The baby didn't kick this time. It was quiet. Too quiet. No, she whispered. You stay with me. A shadow passed over her, blocking the sun. She squinted, heart racing. A man stood there, old, his beard tangled, clothes patched and filthy. He didn't speak. Just looked at her, eyes narrowed, mouth a tight line. She couldn't find words. Her lips moved, but nothing came out. The man knelt slowly, his hand reaching for her wrist. The chain clanked when he lifted it, studying the cuff, the blood. Who did this? His voice was low, rough. She swallowed, tried to speak. Micah! She croaked. He didn't react, not at first. Then he stood, looking around. His hand dropped to something at his belt, a knife. Water, she managed. He looked down at her again, then turned away. She watched him walk to a mule, tied a little ways off. He pulled a canteen from the saddle, shook it, then came back, kneeling again. He held it to her lips. She drank too fast, choking, coughing, but she didn't stop. Not until he pulled it away. Easy. His voice softened a bit. Ain't much left. She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, eyes wet. He cut the chain. The knife was sharp, steady. When it snapped, she flinched, but the relief flooded through her. She clutched her wrist, red and raw. Can you stand? She shook her head. He didn't argue. Just lifted her, slow but firm, carrying her like she weighed nothing. She wanted to tell him she could walk, that she wasn't some weak thing, but the words died. The mule stood still as he laid her across its back, tying her down careful, gentle. Where? She started. My place. He didn't say more. She closed her eyes, letting the motion of the mule rock her. Sleep came, deep and dark. When she woke, it was night. Stars above, cold air biting. She was on a cot, wrapped in a blanket that smelled of smoke and sweat. Her hand went to her belly. The baby shifted. Relief washed over her like a flood. The man sat by a fire, sharpening his knife. Sparks flew with every stroke. "Why'd you help me?" she asked, voice clearer now. He didn't look at her. "Didn't plan to." "Then why?" He paused, knife still. "Didn't like the look of you dying." She sat up, wincing. "What's your name?" "Elias." She repeated it, tasting it. "Clara." He nodded, not surprised. "You knew Micah?" "Well enough." She watched him. His hands were scarred, steady. The kind of hands that had seen too much. "Why'd they leave you out there?" he asked. She hesitated. "Because I wouldn't give up my father's land. They want it all. The Travers. Figures." He spit into the fire. "They take what they want. I thought Micah loved me." Elias snorted. "Micah don't love anything but power." She looked down at her wrist, the skin broken. "He said I wasn't supposed to make it this far." Elias stood, tossing the knife aside. "You're here now." She nodded. "I need to go back." He raised an eyebrow. "You won't make it." "I have to." He stepped closer, looking down at her. "You think you can fight them?" "I don't care about fighting. I want what's mine." He studied her, long and hard. "You don't get it. They own that town. The law, the land, the people. Then I'll take it back." He sat down, leaning back. "How?" She didn't answer. She didn't know. But the fire inside her wouldn't let her stop. Elias threw another log on the fire. "You'll need more than guts." She watched the flames dance. "Teach me." He shook his head. "Ain't got nothing to teach. You survived them." He didn't reply. "I need to know how." The wind howled outside, pushing at the door. The desert was listening. Elias stared into the fire. "You learn to think like them. But never forget who you are." She nodded, pulling the blanket tighter. "I won't." The baby kicked again, strong. She smiled. "We're not done," she said, mostly to herself. Elias stood. "Sleep. Tomorrow we talk." She closed her eyes, the weight of the night settling in. She wasn't dead. Not yet. And now, she wasn't alone. The first light of dawn stretched long shadows across the floorboards. Clara sat with her back to the wall, Elias's coat wrapped around her shoulders, her eyes fixed on the empty tin cup in her hands. The water was gone, but she hadn't asked for more. Her throat ached, but not from thirst. She hadn't spoken since he told her. "They killed him?" The words felt foreign now, almost childish. Elias didn't look up from his place by the stove, where he stirred something thick and brown in a battered pot. "They don't need blood on their hands. Not when fire works better." He ladled the stew into 2 bowls and set one down in front of her. "Barn caught first. Then the house." Clara didn't touch it. "And my father?" "Didn't stand a chance." She swallowed hard, stomach turning. "Why?" "Land." Elias sat down across from her, spoon already halfway to his mouth. "Your father had the last stretch worth anything west of Dry Rock. They wanted it clean." She ran a finger along the rim of the cup. "And me? They needed you quiet. Easier than fighting a claim." He paused, chewing slow. "Easier than a trial." She looked up then, eyes sharp. "They think they've won. They always think that." The fire popped in the stove. Clara reached for the bowl, hand trembling slightly, and took a small bite. It was hot, salty, and settled heavy in her belly. She ate without tasting. Elias leaned back in his chair, watching her. "You're not the first." Clara raised an eyebrow. "They've done it before. To others." He scratched at his beard, gaze distant. "Folks who stood in the way. Some they paid off. Others." His voice trailed off. "You?" she asked quietly. He gave a slow nod. "I rode with them once. Thought we were building something. A town, a future." He chuckled, bitter. "Turns out, just building a graveyard." Clara pushed the bowl away. "Why'd you stop?" "Didn't like burying friends." Silence stretched between them. "I want to see it," she said. What? My land? My father's land? It's gone. I still want to see it. Elias shook his head. What's left will just hurt. I need to see. He didn't argue this time. They left as the sun rose higher, Clara riding behind Elias, arms wrapped around her belly. The mule moved steady, the desert rolling out in every direction like a sea of gold and red. Time passed slow, measured by the creak of leather and the crunch of hooves on dry ground. When they reached the ridge, Elias stopped. Below, blackened earth stretched where her home had been. The barn, nothing but charred posts. The house, a pile of rubble. The wind stirred ashes into the air. Clara slid down, legs shaking as she walked toward what was left. She knelt by the ruins, picking up a scorched piece of wood, running her hand over it like it could still hold the memory. He built this, she whispered. With his own hands. Elias stayed back, silent. She stood slowly, looking out over the land. Her father had worked it for years, never rich, never wanting more than what it gave. Now, it was just dirt. They'll pay for this. Revenge won't bring it back, Elias said. It's not about revenge. She turned eyes hard. It's about taking back what's mine. He nodded once. Who can help? She asked. Few left. There's got to be someone. Elias thought for a moment. There's Tom Briggs. Runs the feed store. He's no friend of the Travers. Lost his brother to them. And Sarah Jane. Widow. Knows every secret in that town. Good. Clara brushed the ashes from her hands. Then we start there. Elias raised an eyebrow. You sure you're ready for this? I wasn't ready for any of it. She looked him square. But I'm not hiding. He climbed back onto the mule, offering her a hand. She took it, steady this time. As they rode back, Clara didn't look at the desert. She kept her eyes ahead, on the line where the land met the sky. Her hands rested on her belly, feeling the life still growing there strong. Elias, she said, voice firm. Yeah? Teach me everything you know. The town hadn't changed. Same crooked sign over the saloon door, same dust clinging to the windows. Clara stood at the edge of it all, her shawl pulled tight around her shoulders, head low. Elias stood a few paces behind, watching. She could feel the eyes on her, not knowing her face but sensing something wasn't right. Strangers didn't come here anymore. Not since the Travers made sure everyone knew who held the reins. Clara stepped forward, her boots silent on the dirt road. She passed the smithy, the church, the mercantile. Each one held a memory, sharp and unwelcome. She let them pass. She wasn't here for memories. Tom Briggs was sweeping the porch of his store, head down, moving slow. His beard was grayer than she remembered. When he looked up, she didn't speak, just walked up the steps, standing close enough for him to see her eyes. Clara? His voice was low, disbelieving. She nodded. They said? I know what they said. He dropped the broom, pulling her inside. You can't be here. I have to be. Tom shut the door, pulled the curtain over the window. Micah's men. I'm not afraid of them. You should be. She didn't flinch. I need your help. He rubbed his face, pacing. You don't understand, girl. They've got the sheriff in their pocket, the judge too. Ain't nobody left to stand with you. I don't need a crowd. Just a few good men. He laughed, bitter. Good men don't last long here. Clara stepped closer. They burned my father's land. Left me in the desert to die. I'm not here for talk, Tom. I'm here to end it. He stopped, looking at her like seeing her for the first time. What do you need? Names. Proof. People who've been hurt like us. Tom nodded slowly. There's folks. Quiet ones. Scared. But they'll talk. Then send them to me. Where? Elias' place. Tonight. Tom hesitated, then reached under the counter, pulling out a worn ledger. You'll need this too. He handed it over, heavy with dust. My brother kept records. Deals that weren't right. Micah's hand in most of them. She opened it, flipping through. Names, numbers, land trades that didn't make sense. Her father's name was there, scrawled in tight ink. This will help, she said. Be careful, Clara. They're worse than you remember. I'm worse too. Back outside, Elias waited, arms crossed. Trouble? No. Allies. They left town before anyone could follow, the sun dipping low behind them. At the cabin, the fire was already lit. Clara sat by it, the ledger open on her lap, tracing each line like a map. Elias watched her, saying nothing. They've stolen from everyone, she murmured. Not just me. That's how they win. Not this time. A knock at the door. Elias moved first, hand on his gun, but Clara stood. It's all right. Tom stepped in, followed by a woman Clara didn't know, her eyes sharp beneath a worn bonnet. Sarah Jane, Tom said. Clara nodded. Thank you for coming. Sarah's voice was cold. I don't do this for you. Then why? Because my husband didn't hang himself. Clara closed the ledger. Tell me. Sarah sat, hands clasped tight. He fought them. Said no when they wanted our land? Next morning, I found him in the barn. Sheriff called it suicide. I knew better. Clara met her gaze. You're right. Sarah looked away. What good is knowing? It's a start. They talked long into the night. Stories spilled out, one after another. A trail of fear, of loss, of power unchecked. Clara listened, each word feeding the fire inside her. When they left, Clara stood by the window, looking out at the dark. They won't stop, Elias said. Neither will I. He nodded, respect in his eyes. What now? We make them see. Not with guns. With truth. Truth don't scare them. It will when the town hears it. Elias stepped closer. You think they'll listen? They will if we give them a reason. She picked up the ledger, holding it tight. I'm going back. The church bell rang out across the town, a slow, heavy toll that pulled folks from doorways and porches, their eyes lifting as if the sound alone could tell them why. Clara stood near the edge of the square, her shawl drawn close, the worn ledger tucked under her arm. Beside her, Elias watched the growing crowd with the stillness of a man who'd seen too many gatherings end in silence. They came in twos and threes, murmuring, heads low, glancing toward the courthouse steps where Micah was already waiting, flanked by Sheriff Cole and two of his hired men. Micah's coat was clean, boots polished, his hat tilted just right. He smiled at the people, the kind of smile meant to remind them who fed them, who kept them safe. Clara saw it for what it was, a mask worn too long. She moved closer, her steps even, her gaze fixed. Micah's eyes found her, and for a second, the smile faltered. Not gone, but cracked. I thought you'd left us, Clara, he called loud enough for all to hear. Seems the desert gave you up too easy. She didn't answer, didn't slow. Just stood at the foot of the steps, the crowd parting behind her, a hush falling. I'm here, she said, voice clear, steady. Micah stepped down, boots thudding against the wood. And what brings you back? Homesick? Or just lost? She opened the ledger, holding it out. Truth. Laughter rippled through a few in the crowd, nervous, unsure. Micah glanced at the sheriff, then back at her. You've always had a flair for stories. Clara didn't move. These aren't mine. He reached for the book, but she pulled it back. You'll get your turn. Tom Briggs stepped forward, his hat in hand. Let her speak. Micah's gaze darkened, but he didn't stop her. Clara turned, facing the town. You all know me. You knew my father. You know what happened to our land. Murmurs rose, soft but rising. They called it an accident. Just like they called Sarah Jane's husband's death suicide. Just like they took Tom's brother's ranch with false debts. She held up the ledger. This proves it. Names. Deals. Lies. Sheriff Cole shifted, uneasy. Enough. Micah snapped. You come back from the dead to stir trouble, and I won't have it. Clara looked at him. You already tried to kill me once. I'm still standing. A hush, thicker now. Micah took a step closer, voice low. This town doesn't need your poison. It needs the truth. Elias moved then, stepping beside her. Let them see. Tom took the ledger from her hands, opening it wide, reading names, dates, deals too neat to be honest. The words filled the air, heavy as iron. The townsfolk listened, shifting, whispering. Eyes turned toward Micah, not with fear now, but doubt. Micah's face twisted. You'd believe this? Her word against mine? A bitter woman and an old fool? Sarah Jane stepped forward. She's not lying. They took everything. More voices joined, small at first, then louder. Men and women who had lost land, lost family, too afraid to speak until now. Micah backed up, hands raised. You think this changes anything? I built this town. Clara stepped closer. You built a prison. Sheriff Cole looked between them, then down, silent. Micah reached for his gun, fast, but Elias was faster. His hand clamped down on Micah's wrist, holding it tight. No more, Elias said. Micah struggled, eyes wild, but it was over. The sheriff moved at last, taking Micah's gun, clapping irons on his wrists. The bell rang again, not by any hand, but by the wind, shaking it free. The sound echoed, sharp and final. Clara stood still, breathing deep. The weight wasn't gone, but it was less. Elias turned to her. It's done. She shook her head. Not yet. But it started. The crowd began to break, slow and quiet, but different now. The fear was fading. Clara looked at the courthouse, then at the land beyond. We take it back piece by piece. Elias nodded, and together they walked forward. Micah sat alone in the back of the jail, head down, hands shackled in front of him. The cell door clanged shut behind the sheriff, but he didn't look up. The weight of silence pressed heavy, thicker than the iron bars that held him. Outside, the town moved on, slow and cautious, like waking from a bad dream they didn't know they'd been living. Clara stood at the edge of the porch, watching the street. The sun was higher now, warm against her face, but she didn't move to the shade. The wind stirred dust around her boots, carrying voices from the square, voices that no longer spoke in whispers. Tom passed her on his way to the store, tipping his hat, no words. He didn't need to say anything. Neither did Sarah Jane, who nodded from across the way, her basket full of things she never dared to buy before. Elias stepped up beside Clara, hands in his pockets, eyes following hers. They're waiting, he said. She nodded, her fingers brushing the wood rail. Let them. You could leave it now. Walk away. She looked at him, the lines in her face softer, but not gentler. I didn't come this far to walk. He didn't argue. Inside the jail, Micah shifted, finally lifting his head. The sheriff sat at his desk, writing slow, the sound of pens scratching paper the only noise between them. You think this'll hold? Micah's voice was hoarse. The sheriff didn't answer. You owe me, Cole. Everything you've got because of me. Cole looked up, steady. And I'll lose it if I don't do this right. Micah laughed, sharp and bitter. You think she's won? She doesn't know this town. They'll come crawling back. Cole didn't speak, just turned the page. Micah leaned forward, chains rattling. You'll see. Outside, Clara stepped off the porch, walking slow toward the courthouse. Her hand rested lightly on her belly, the child shifting beneath her fingers. Each step was measured, calm. The door creaked when she opened it, the sound echoing in the empty hall. She crossed the floor, her boots loud against the boards, and stood before the judge's bench. Elias followed, quiet, standing near the back. She laid the ledger down, the weight of it heavy even in stillness. This is the truth, she said, her voice filling the room. Not just mine. All of ours. The judge entered from a side door, robes loose around his thin frame. He looked tired, older than she remembered, but his eyes were sharp. Mrs. Travers. She didn't correct him. He glanced at the book, then back at her. You understand what this means? She nodded. Do you want blood? No. Land? No. He paused. Then what? Justice. He studied her a long moment, then sat, opening the ledger. The room stayed silent as he read page after page. When he looked up, the weight in his eyes matched her own. It won't be quick. It doesn't have to be. He nodded once. Leave it with me. Clara stepped back, Elias opening the door for her. Outside, the sky stretched wide and blue, the air clearer than it had been in months. She stood on the steps, looking out over the town. It wasn't hers yet. Not fully. But it wasn't his either. Elias handed her the reins to the mule, ready to ride. Where now? He asked. Home. He mounted beside her, and they rode slow, the town behind them, the land ahead. At the edge of her father's burned fields, Clara dismounted, walking the rest alone. The soil was dry, cracked, but it would hold. She knelt, pressing her hand to the earth, feeling the warmth. We're still here, she whispered. Elias stood back, watching. She didn't cry. Didn't smile. Just stood, strong, steady, as the wind moved through the grass, carrying with it the promise of something not yet done, but finally begun.